All right. Welcome for you who's watching on videos. Because she was so concerned about it. Let's zoom in on this young lady right here, because she didn't want anybody to see her. Sitting in my classroom.
Here I am.
You guys can wave to the 11 o'clock people. People you had in your accounting 1 class last semester, and they're going at 11 o'clock now. On there, they'll be joining us for this review. All right, so for my people that aren't going to be joining on video, I handed out the exam 1 review sheet, and then on your Canvas page, it is called, I believe, cost of good manufactured review and job costing exam review. The other 2 sheets that I handed out. And we're just gonna start going through them. Actually, I'm gonna share my screen here.
Are you actually recording right now or?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know if you just turned on Zoom and then hadn't started recording.
It's set to record automatically.
Oh, is it?
I did that
That's smart.
because I always forget to hit that record button. All right, so let's look at our review sheet. So first, a few things about the exam that I have here. All right. Starts off, you have 10 kind of like fill in the blank questions. What is going to happen here is you're going to be giving a cost. First, you identify, is it a product cost or a period cost? Okay. After that, you must identify what kind of product cost it is. What are our 3 types of product costs?
Direct labor, direct materials and manufacturing overhead.
Yes, so, and what are our 2 period costs?
Selling.
And administrative, right? So those are your first 10 questions, identifying whether it's, you'll read it and then you have a line there and you'll write product, direct materials, or product, direct labor, or period, selling, okay? So those were 2 points each. So there's 20 points. After that, you have 17 multiple choice questions. The multiple choice questions are worth 3 points each. So there's 51 points. We're up to a total of 71 now, right?
Off with that.
Points or questions?
Points.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so then you have 2 problems. Your first problem is going to be ABC costing. Okay, calculating activity rates, finding the total manufacturing overhead assigned to 2 separate products, and then finding the per unit cost of those products. Okay, kind of what we did yesterday, and I got another example to do today. That one is worth 15 points. So now we're up to what? 87? We're at 71 plus 15, 86. 71 plus 15 is 86. And then your last question is making a cost of goods and manufacturing statement. That is worth 20 points. So that makes our total 106. And Abby knows this is what I do. That's like my curving, okay? You can get 106 out of 100 on this test if you get everything right. Actually, you can get 109 because there's a 3-point bonus question on here and there's nothing to do with the counting.
That sucks.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
The bonus question's great.
Yeah,
They're
well,
easy, right?
No,
this one's not my
That's
typical.
weird.
You don't like the bonus question?
There's always
Not-
a weird one, you know?
the Christmas,
Yeah,
couldn't
so-
name a single thing.
Well,
I think
okay,
so.
I will tell you, that this is a riddle. Most of the time, my bonus questions are pretty easy.
Okay.
Most of the time, my bonus questions were like last semester, it was like, what's the best Thanksgiving food? Turkey, mashed potatoes, stuffing, or other, and I left it blank so you can fill it in. Most of the time I do a class poll. That's what I do as a bonus question. This time I will tell you it's not a class poll because I found a really cool riddle. So I've made it's a riddle.
You should let us tell a joke.
But it's gonna be hard.
Alright,
Is it gonna be a hard bonus?
What?
It's gonna be like an easy bonus?
It's a hard riddle.
Oh,
But even if you don't get the riddle, like I said, there's still 106. You got 6 extra bonus points built right into your test. So basically you can miss 2 multiple choice questions and still get it 100% if you got everything else right.
I'm still trying to make that one. I'm that dedicated.
Okay, That doesn't seem too bad, does it? All right, so chapters 1 and 2, on our review sheet here. What is the difference between managerial and financial accounting? What's one? Brittany, can you remember one?
The CPA,
Managerial has one rule.
that's all I can remember.
Managerial has one rule.
Yeah, so the
Financial
rules,
has
right?
a lot of, it's a gap rule.
Financial follows gap, managerial doesn't. Yeah, kind of the way you go off and the job you would do, that's kind of what Brittany was saying.
Is managerial CPA or CMA?
CMA is managerial, CPA would be financial.
That was one issue.
What other kind of things?
Managerials for internal use, while financials external.
Yes.
Wait, is this multiple choice?
Has to be, right?
I don't know.
Because you're matching costs, right?
No, that's not what I'm asking. The test.
I just told you what the test
I know, but like I was halfway listening. halfway not.
But so this
was. So there's 10 like fill in the blanks, okay, where you
Yeah.
identify the cost and what kind of cost.
Yeah.
Then there's 17 multiple choice and 2 problems.
Okay, so these are multiple choice.
Yes.
Got it.
But how's it gonna look like, for example, managerial? Is it gonna be like, is it CPA, CMA or CPA for managerial? Is that how you're gonna ask or?
It could say, okay. You can know that, I'm gonna give you this as an example, so you know this isn't going to be on the test.
Yeah.
But managerial accounting, do they look forwards or backwards?
Forward.
Forward.
Yes, managerial is forwards looking, okay? And financial would be backwards looking.
In the past, historical or something, you said.
Yeah,
something.
historical perspective, where that has a future perspective. So multiple choice question could be. Managerial accounting is focused on what kind of perspective?
Okay.
Future,
Yeah, thank you.
present, historical, all of them,
Okay,
something like that.
thank you.
You had your quizzes, right?
Yes, sir.
Now that you did, your questions are, that's why I designed those 10-point quizzes, because your questions are an awful lot like that. Accounting questions are weird, aren't they?
Yeah.
When I was tutoring my fellow classmates, and my biggest thing was words matter in accounting. You think you're dealing with numbers, but you have to read the words very, very carefully. All right, so one more major difference between managerial accounting, I think, that I was thinking of. Objective versus subjective. So financial accounting only uses objective information, stuff that you can prove, go back, verify. Whereas managerial accounting, we're gonna use some of that subjective information coming up. When we go to make decisions, we're gonna look at other factors just besides the dollars amounts. Well, you will in real life, not in this class. This class, we just look at dollars. And then the activities of the managerial accountant. Okay, so we're setting costs, figuring out costs, making decisions, budgeting. Stuff like that. Okay. We're just quick review, just know what a manager, know that a managerial accountant does not do your taxes and is not an external auditor. Okay, you can do internal auditing, stuff like that. Private companies. And then our ethical standards. What were our 4 ethical standards put up by the IMA?
Credibility,
Yeah, very good.
confidentiality,
Confidentiality.
integrity,
One more that starts with the C.
competence.
Very good.
Forgot about that. It's
That's
2
like
weeks
the
ago.
only thing I know.
Okay, so know what those are and be able to, if you had an example, be able to pick out which one it most likely represents. Okay, we went through some of those examples in class. And then identifying and expensing costs. Okay, kind of mentioned this before again, and hopefully everybody should know this by now. What are our 3 product costs?
Sorry.
Materials, direct labor,
Labor
and
and
manufacturing overhead, right? How do they get expensed? Through cost of goods sold. Remember, your product costs get expensed through cost of goods sold. Our period costs are those selling and administrative, and how are they expensed? Just when incurred. Okay, so immediately, as soon as they happen, we expense them
For a period, right?
for the period,
So you,
yes,
I think it's like immediately.
yeah, immediately or when incurred. These next two, we're gonna talk more about when we get into our next unit, we briefly introduced them, anybody remember what a sunk cost is?
It was.
Sunk cost.
Also,
Yeah, we talked about it just briefly, but we didn't really deal with it. We'll deal with it more next unit. Sunk cost is something that happened in the past that you can't change. It's sunk, it's gone. It's just a little foreshadowing how this comes into play when you make decisions. You can't worry about old costs. Like if you're gonna go buy a new car and you look at your old car, you're like, "Man, I already put $6,000 into parts into this car." Should that matter when you're making your decision going forward? Not really, because you want to look at the cost you're going to spend in the future, not what you spend in the past. You can't get that money back no matter what. But it does, doesn't it? I see that you're thinking, man, I did all that, but that's really irrelevant, isn't it? If you take your emotions out of it, it's kind of an irrelevant thing.
That's true. Yeah,
But that's what a sunk cost is. So costs you can't get back. Opportunity costs, you guys know from your economics classes. What you give up for choosing one alternative over another.
yeah.
Okay, we mentioned these, and then variable and fixed costs. What are variable costs? What's the characteristics of variable costs?
they vary with level of production
The total or the per unit?
per unit. Total.
Total.
Wait,
So
what?
variable costs for total, right?
Yeah, the total changes based on production.
Okay.
Remember, we talked about this just a little bit in chapter 3, on a per unit level, they stay the same. Right? So it's gonna cost me $10 for metal to build my product. It's always gonna cost me $10 per product, but the more I produce, the more total cost I have. And then fixed is the other way around. The total cost is always the same. But the per unit cost has that inverse relationship. So if my rent is $3,000 and I make 1,000 units, it's $3 per unit. My rent's $3,000 and I make 3,000 units, it's $1 per unit. And then finally, know our 3 types of inventories. What are our 3 types of inventories? Well, we made journal entries. What did we do? What was our inventory accounts that we used?
Finished goods.
Finished goods, that's one.
Work in process.
Yeah, whip it good.
But
That's an inventory?
That's inventory.
it was-
And then what's our other inventory? RM,
raw material.
raw materials. So those are our 3 inventory accounts. Because remember, raw materials is the inventory that's not been used yet, sitting in the warehouse. Work in process is the inventory where all the costs get added, and then when it's finished, it moves into finished goods. Yes, sir.
What are period costs expensed as again?
Period costs, they're expensed immediately or as incurred. So like you did in financial accounting. So if it was like salaries for the corporate CEO, it'd be a salaries expense. Yeah, we already mentioned variable and fixed cost behavior. Job versus process costing, we talked about Monday. Does anybody remember? What types of products use process costing?
What kind of what?
Products
For job costing.
or for process costing? Which one? You can tell me, give me a product and tell me if it's job costing or process costing.
Baseball bats.
What'd you say they are?
Product cost.
That'd be a job cost.
Oh, job, yes. job.
Because we make different types of baseball bats, different sizes, and they'd all be their own job. We wouldn't constantly be making the same baseball bat over and over again. Remember, process costing is homogeneous products. Coca-Cola, oil, paper.
Yeah, what's the, okay, I was wondering, make sure job cost and what's the other?
Process.
Process.
Well, paper would be a job costing scenario, would it not? Because paper, they've got different thicknesses and different weights.
Yeah, but they're probably constantly producing it. You can make an argument either way.
I'm having a hard time understanding it. I apologize. So you're saying when it has to be distinct products for job costing, they've got to retool basically.
Yeah, just think of an industry that makes a whole bunch of different things. So you can get different costs for different jobs. And if you have a question like this, it's going to be very, very
So
clear.
like a car
Well,
repair.
how's it gonna be, so,
Car repair would be job costing, right? Because not all repairs are the same.
Yeah,
yeah, but you said the question's gonna be very clear, like, how would I ask that?
It'll say which one of these is process costing. And it'll give you 4 things. And it'll be very clear which one is different, or which one of these is job costing. It'll give you 4 things. 3 will be process, 1 will be job. And it'll be very easy to pull out which one is which. It's not gonna be one of those ones. Like I said, paper mill, and I can see your point there. It could go either, because they're making different sizes, but they're probably constantly putting out the 11 white sheets of paper. Imagine how much of that is used all the time.
Mhm.
Just constantly. So they might do process costing for that, they're process costing for putting out the other paper. But there are no steadfast rules to this either, so we're just talking basic in generalities.
Okay.
All right, calculating the predetermined overhead rate. That's what we've been doing, right? Calculating total per unit job costs, we're gonna do all that in the handout here in a minute. Okay, the flow of costs through inventory. This was our journal entries. Okay, you're not gonna have to make journal entries. There may be a multiple choice question that says, when this happens, it includes a journal entry to what account? Like, when goods are completed, this will include a debit to A, work in process inventory, B, raw materials inventory, C, finished goods inventory, or D, cost of goods sold. Okay, so we need to know how it flows through there. So do we remember our journal entries? When we purchase materials, where does it go?
Raw materials.
And so we would debit raw materials, right? And then credit your payable or whatever. Right, when materials get requisitioned, get put into use,
with,
debit with, right? And what would you credit here?
Raw materials.
Raw materials.
Yeah.
When labor gets added in, we debit. Well, somebody you're gonna dance again.
Is it work in progress?
is it with?
It is with. Yes, remember, all costs go into the work in process inventory.
But this last one, you said debit with? What
And
was
then
the
it's
question again?
wages payable.
Yeah, for direct labor.
Or directly?
Okay.
Okay,
What was the last one? The last one was direct materials, right?
yes, direct materials, direct labor. Okay. Does actual or applied overhead go into our work in process?
It's estimated, correct?
So it'd be our applied amount. Okay, remember, we put that on our job cost sheet. The applied amount flows into the work in process, while the actual amount goes into that holding account.
Which is.
We'll call it overhead control or manufacturing
Oh,
overhead,
okay.
okay? But it's just in a holding account.
So the answer is holding account? Or holding?
If I'm not spending a lot of time on it, you're not gonna need to know what this account is called, okay? It's a holding account. It's called overhead control, manufacturing overhead, factory overhead. Could have a bunch of different names. Trying to get you to understand the process here. Think about how this stuff flows through. Materials come into raw materials, then they go into WIP. Labor goes into WIP. Applied overhead goes into WIP. Actual overhead goes into an overhead holding account. Okay. Then we get to the point where we have to adjust it. Okay. What is the over applied or under applied overhead gets adjusted to what account?
It gets adjusted to the overhead account, correct?
Well, what other account?
I don't know.
What is it? Do you remember what it affects?
Wait.
That overhead variance,
Mhm.
the difference there between the applied and the actual. Where do we make our adjustment to?
Your cost, right?
Yeah, our cost of goods sold.
Okay.
Does over applied does what to your cost of goods sold? Does it make it go up or down?
Mr. President, I'm sorry. It says, if we adjust the overapplied and what again?
So,
Last part,
the overhead variance
you know,
gets adjusted into cost of goods sold.
goes to COGS.
Yeah. Yep, you're fine. And then my next question was, if it's over applied, what happens to the cost of goods sold? Does it go up or down?
Up, down.
So if we applied too much, right, we need to take some of the cost out. So that means that your COGS is going down. If we under applied, right, our cost of goods sold is gonna go up. We got some prospective students out there taking a tour. All right, then, once goods are complete, where do they go next? What would we debit on this one?
Finished goods.
And what would we credit? Yes, so once something is complete, we debit our finished goods and then credit the work in process to remove it. And finally, when goods are sold, we debit cost of goods sold and we credit our finished goods. All right, something I missed there in chapters 1 and 2. What's gross margin? How do you find gross margin? Gross profit, same thing.
Your.
Revenue minus COGS.
Yes.
Yeah, I was gonna say it the other way.
Revenue minus COGS is your gross margin, right? Then it says know how to calculate your operating income. And that's revenue minus COGS gets you gross margin, minus your selling and admin expenses.
Oh.
That gets you to your operating income.
Gross margin minus,
Selling and admin,
okay, equals,
your operating income.
okay. So I can be on the test, right?
Yeah, bro.
No, I swear, professors always like say it's gonna be a test, but it never is. It's always the opposite. So I just wanna make sure.
We gotta trick you somehow.
Yeah, that's what y'all do. I would never do that.
One day, you'll have kids and you'll find out how much fun it is. to have. All right, so that's kind of going through everything. Essential stuff. The rest of the stuff we can do when we do practice problems. Okay, so which one do you want to do first?
The easy one.
Which one's the easy? one?
They're both easy. I think they're both
Requires
easy.
more memorization. The other one requires more
And
thinking.
Dustin, you've been doing this for 20 years.
No, no,
Let's
no, no.
just go in order.
I don't even know what
Which
the order
one did
is.
you get it?
This one?
Okay, because I don't know. which
I'm not
one.
even on the right.
Oh.
This guy. You have a second?
Yeah,
Oh, okay, y'all are on just different
The
wavelength than I.
Tinkler company.
I'm following now.
They basically just make a statement. Okay. So it's beginning. Beginning.
Well, I guess I did not put them on anywhere.
Beginning something. Yeah. Beginning with. Plus your purchases.
Just come in here. So I know what's in here. So the COGM review question, that's what I pulled up first. I heard somebody talking out there, I think it might have been Brittany, beginning with, that is definitely what you start with, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so you can try to memorize this. When you said that, and I've been thinking, it drives me crazy, because I don't want you to memorize it. Because you want to be an accountant, right? And one of the things you said the other day is like, all this stuff, it's in a different order now, it's all jumping up, and that confuses you, doesn't it? If you want to be an accountant, you think your clients are gonna bring you information in the exact same way every time? It's one of the hardest parts about being an accountant, especially when you get into your next accounting classes. Is that they'll give you the information and most students struggle trying to pick out what is relevant and what is not. But I don't want you to just memorize how to do this. If you try to understand the process, it makes it a little bit easier. So here we're calculating how much it costs to produce our stuff. The end goal is to find out our cost of goods manufactured. That's the amount that gets transferred from work in process to finished goods. Okay, it's the cost of everything we completed. So we start with all the costs that have already been started previously, but not yet finished. So you start with your beginning work in process.
From there, we got to start adding in our product costs. All right. So our first product cost is direct materials. Did you have a question or are you just pointing?
I'm just pointing.
Okay. Right, so then we start with our materials. We don't know how many materials we use, so we have to calculate that, right? So we start with our beginning raw materials inventory. Plus purchases. And so you gotta take your beginning plus your purchases to get your raw materials available. This is, you subtract out your ending raw materials to find out how many raw materials were actually used.
$400.
That's what I thought, but I've been wrong so much in the past couple of days that I'm getting a little shy on trying to do math in my head. So what should we add next then?
Labor.
That makes sense. It just clicked. So you're saying you pull raw materials used over to the side because that's each block. So you're gonna have your beginning whip is gonna be a major block that you're gonna add. Then you're gonna have materials is gonna be a major block. And then you're gonna have labor, which is gonna be a major
Yes.
block.
That's why I always do it in 3 columns. Each column should be something that you're going to deal with adding those numbers together. So I don't want to put them all in the same column because then it gets confusing with the addition.
All
Yep, direct labor, that's what Abby said, goes on there next, very good, what was the amount? Abby, I don't have my sheet.
22,000.
22,000. What's next? Amanda, what should we put on there next?
Manufacturing overhead.
And I believe that was 40,000, wasn't it? What's next?
What's your total, and then subtract your ending with.
What about the selling and admin costs?
Oh, shoot.
Oh, I guess, the way I wrote down my notes was like
Do we put that
separate.
under?
and
Oh,
then-
you put it under.
You put it under again. We
No.
did, right?
You don't use it at all. You can just ignore it.
So, okay.
I was asking you a trick question.
Oh,
See, this is a
okay.
accounting statement, right?
Yeah.
What?
This is a accounting statement.
Yes, this is the cost of good manufacture. So we're only worried about product costs.
Okay.
That's all there just as a dummy cost to throw you off. You do not need that
Okay,
for
so
this statement.
Monday we go, sure, and mark it out. Oh, Monday.
Yeah, so we would add these all up, just like Amanda said. We would call this the total cost of production. So these are all our costs, whether the product is completed or not. So the cost of everything that was started when the month began, that was just sitting there, plus our materials, labor, overhead. 62, 74. 74.6.
Okay, hold on.
What?
Is that all in your head?
It wasn't, that was easy. Because 40 plus 22 is 62, plus 8 is 70, 407,000, 70,400.
Yeah. I got 70,400. 8,400.
Did you add up this, did you put this 4,200 in there?
No, I added that too.
Yep. And then what's our final step here?
Subtract ending with.
Yeah, so this is everything, the cost of everything, right? But we want to know what the cost for the stuff we completed was. So we need to take out the stuff that's still being worked on. So we subtract out ending with.
That's it, right?
That is it. That's what I'm looking for on the test. No, I'm gonna ask you something else just as a review, but on your test, that's where you stop at. That's 20 points right there.
Okay.
Okay, you're not gonna have to do this on your test, but you probably might have a multiple choice with this kind of information. What is our cost of goods sold in this problem? So if you're given, if you're told what your cost of good manufacturing is, and you're given all this other information, and it says, what is your cost of goods sold? How would you find it?
Compromise.
You take your cost of good manufactured plus your beginning finished goods inventory. Gives you your cost of goods available. Minus your ending finished goods inventory. Equals your cost of goods sold.
What's the COGA used for?
Well, the COGA is just those two added together,
Oh,
okay? That's the cost of goods available, how much we could sell if we sold it all. Any questions on this statement? Okay, this is overhead. We have some estimated amount. The MH stands for machine hours. We're going to apply our overhead based on machine hours. What is our predetermined overhead rate? To apply overhead in this case. $28.67. $28.67 per hour, okay? How much was applied? How much overhead was applied in this case?
115,666.
Okay, everybody know how to get that, the applied amount? Does everybody know how to get the predetermined overhead rate? Okay, so that we took this divided by this. When we get that rate to find applied, it's the rate times the actual usage. Okay, and Abby was absolutely right, it's 415,667. Okay, if it was 415,667 applied, were we over applied or under applied?
That's a lot of numbers.
Applied was 415,667. You're under applied, right? Applied compared to actual. You're confused, but
Oh, I just was looking at the numbers and then I realized it's because I didn't leave enough decimals.
right, and we were under applied, right? What's that do to cost of goods sold? Makes our cost of goods sold go up, makes profits go down.
It makes your COGS go down, right? You said.
It's under applied, so it makes cost of goods sold go up.
I'll go up. Up and down.
And then finally, your other sheet. Okay, we can skip part number 3 on here. This is the sheet, you can go through and do it as a simple job costing too and find out the difference and use it in my first class to explain the difference between the two, the simple and the ABC. But first, find our activity rates. Remember how to find the activity rates?
You do 44,000 divided by 400.
Mhm. There were my activity rates. After that, you just need to start applying them to each product. We need a total product, a total overhead for each product.
So what do you do after you get your activity rates?
Give me just a second. We got one more number here and I'll tell you. Okay, so I'm looking. All right, so the next thing we can do is we have to assign or apply these costs to our production. So I look at my custom one here. And I'm kind of just, this is like a half-ass job sheet, okay? I'm not putting the manufacturing overhead out on the side or anything. I'm just writing my numbers here. This first number is for my setups. So I took my actual number of custom setups, the 290, and multiplied it by the 110 per setup that I just found. The next one down is for the purchase orders, right? 760 of them times the $15 per purchase order. Next one down, inspections, 1,200 of them for the custom times 65 per inspection. And then finally, 500 components at $120 per component. Multiply them all out and then add them all up.
Is this for the second one?
It's for number 2, right? Assign activity rate to each product.
Okay, so we assigned the activity cost. Okay, we've already done that. Now we're determining the unit cost. To find the unit cost, you first have to find a total cost. So this is our total cost for the customs. And now I want to find a unit cost. How would I find my unit cost?
Divide by the units.
Which was how many? 2,000, right? So I divide by 2,000. On your exam, I will be looking for your activity rates, your total cost, and the unit cost. Okay, for both products. Hey, let me check this out. I think I might only have to do one product. For time's sake.
This is worth 15 points. This whole problem, sir.
That's worth 15 points. And you're gonna have two products, but you only have to do this for one of them. Because I thought, that's what I thought how I made it. See, if you can do it for one of them, you can do it for this other one. It's the same process. You just use the other numbers.
And then you divide by unit volume 2,000.
Yep. How many of that one was made?
Then you do 100,000.
Yep, so like I said,
It's 90.65.
90.65. Yep, so if it had the same amount of activities, you'd be looking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 answers. I'd be looking at 15 points, 2 points apiece, 3 points for just doing the problem. Cannot stress this enough. I don't think I have an issue in this class. Do not leave anything blank. Okay, especially if it's a problem. Because if I make a problem worth 20 points and you have absolutely no clue what you're doing, but you write some of the numbers down there and make it look like you're trying to do something, I can give you 6 or 7 points, but you leave it blank, I gotta give you 0. Okay? So at least show me that you made an effort and you thought about it. So I can be some subjective grading here. Like I said, for this class, I don't see it being an issue. I think most people in here at least, you may not know it 100%, but you're gonna have at least enough of an idea to at least attempt the problem.
How's your other class doing?
Not too bad.
I'm just curious, because it's like a small poll, so I was like, how's the county one keeps going?
I'm surprised. I've heard more
Hey,
this
Dillon
semester
Hill's got all the
of people
Sunday
like,
students in
of
there.
people like Abby that said, I really liked financial accounting. I'm not sure about this managerial. And usually it's the other way around. People love the managerial and hate financial.
I like the other one
I
better.
like financial more.
Well, I'll just wait till we get the next unit. And we're not talking about statements anymore. So we start making decisions.
I don't like that either.
So is financial easier when you get that job, when you're done with college? Is it easier than managerial or
No, financial accounting, you're gonna work forever.
what?
You know, if you're a CPA right now, this is the beginning of February, you're working 90 to 100 hours a week right now. Because right now it's tax season and it's audit season, so it doesn't matter what you're doing. You have to get audits done before they can file their taxes, businesses.
And then they do this for like 2-3 months, right?
Yep, from January through April 15th,
But,
so like 3.5 months,
so
yeah.
you don't, usually you have weekends off with the job, right? But when it's tax season, you don't anymore.
Yep, it depends on where you work. You get on a big accounting firm, you're not gonna